Hi everyone, welcome to the first live show that I'm doing related to my YouTube channel, so thank you for joining me here. This is the first show, the premiere, if you will, of the show. The format of the show is not entirely in focus yet. It's going to cover interesting events of the last couple of weeks regarding technology, news articles, and also any interesting things that have happened. And also going to provide a great opportunity for you to ask me questions, kind of like a live tech support. So if you have something you need help with regarding technology, home labs, servers, networking, or anything like that, you can feel free to write a message in the chat and I will do my best to answer you, or someone in the community of which we're building up will be able to answer you also. So thank you all for joining. The first thing I want to talk about is actually really interesting. Everyone knows that in the last year and a half, we've had a lot of problems with component shortages, graphics cards being the obvious one here. Now, we all want graphics cards and we cannot get any. So this has had a bad effect on most tech YouTubers, as well as a lot of companies and a lot of gamers and so on, to be able to get hold of components. But what's really interesting about the silicon shortage is that it has a knock-on effect on areas that perhaps people weren't expecting. Now, if you are old like me, or you still use printers or anything like that, there's a really interesting side effect of the silicon shortage. Now, if any of you have bought a printer in the past, you will know that printers tend to be quite cheap, but the ink cartridges are not. So you end up spending a lot of money for the ink cartridges because the makers of the cartridges, normally the makers of the printers, so Epson, Canon, and so on, they charge a ridiculous amount of money for the cartridges, and you can normally find some aftermarket cartridges that are normally quite cheap, so you can use those, but the printer will tell you, no, if you do that then you're going to end up with problems in the printer and so on. You can also get continuous ink systems, that also helps a lot. But the way in which these companies actually control the cartridges is through little chips. Now, the chips are silicon. They have little chips on them. It's the same type of deal as a motherboard and any other chipboard. And they cannot get hold of any chips and silicone to make these chips to stop you from using other types of cartridges. And I'm going to share my screen here to a really interesting article. And as you can see here, Canon, which is notoriously bad for overcharging people, is selling DRM free ink cartridges. And not only are they selling cartridges that are free of protection, they're also telling people how to get around the protection. So there is a shortcut in the printer that tells you how to bypass this problem. So what they've been doing over the last, let's say, 20 years or more is trying to discourage this behavior, and now they're telling you how to get around it, which is really, really interesting. So that's been a really interesting development over the last couple of weeks, because I've been hit pretty hard at work, and I know a lot of people who have been hit pretty hard from the silicon shortage. So this update has been pretty awesome to see. So I'm quite happy about that, because it's nice to see printer companies get shafted as they have been doing to us over the past 15-20 years. I know that I have a lot, and I still use a printer from time to time, so that's really good. I don't know what anyone else thinks about that, but it's one of those like feel good articles. So another interesting event that happened in the last couple of weeks, anyone who has watched my channel before or knows me knows that LastPass is a password manager similar to 1Pass and a few others. And basically, about a year and a half ago, it could be, LastPass had a problem with changing ownership and so on, and they had some issues regarding how they're going to control data and stuff like that. Anyway, in the last couple of weeks, they actually received a kind of hack, so that can go on top of another reason to not use LastPass at all, to be honest. Now, I have the article here. As you can see here, the actual owners of LastPass said that no passwords are compromised following the breach scare, and the explanation is pretty sad. Basically, what they say is that people were allowed to essentially get into the system and trigger some send-outs of, like, warnings and stuff like that, as if like that makes it better. It doesn't make it better. That's terrible for a security-based company to not even have sufficient security on their own systems to actually handle that, because what this would have done is fished out people to basically give out their details. Thank you, Captain, for following. So a lot of people who might use password managers, not saying that they're idiots, but if you can't remember passwords, then you're going to end up using a password manager. And if you're fooled by an email which looks like it's from them and you start giving out some details, it doesn't take a lot of social engineering to reverse engineering to handle that. So you have to be really careful using password managers. I'm going to link the articles that I've shown you so far in the description for the YouTube video that will follow this live stream. But about a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago now, I'm going to post this in the chat. I actually released a video about LastPass, so because they had a problem like a year and a half ago about this, and it was so bad. The surprising thing is that this company might even survive this, but who is using this service, I have no idea. This is just another reason not to use a password manager, but definitely not to use a password manager that is LastPass. If they change their name, then just use something else, because this is really bad. The other one was to do with structural stuff, to do with money and finance and changing ownership, and it was a real dick move. But this is a security issue that basically they tried to say, oh, it's fine, don't worry, your passwords didn't get hacked, just that we did, and they sent out fake emails from us. So, well done, that's awesome, well done. So that's really bad. Definitely leave me your thoughts in the comments below. If you use a password manager or not, if you use any other password manager. For the record, I don't use any password manager. I don't think I'll ever use a password manager. So I have my own system for handling my passwords, which I think is a lot better, a lot more secure. If you're interested in knowing about that system, then leave a comment in the comments below in the YouTube channel, or if you're watching live, you can also leave a comment live, and I will put that in my notes for making a video about that. So those are a couple of little small tidbits that I thought were really interesting, because they definitely are interesting developments for us, and I just thought the LastPass one was quite funny, if I'm honest, because I did post a video about them about a year ago, and they still seem to be in a special kind of river without a boat, so it's they seem to be swimming the wrong way up one of those. So I don't know if everyone has been watching, but everyone knows that on this channel I use Linux. I'm using Linux at this moment. I stream on Linux, I play games on Linux, and I've been daily driving Linux now for about 2-3 months, completely. I've used it before, but I actually uninstalled Windows about 2 or 3 months ago, and I've been daily driving Manjaro Linux for the past 2 or 3 months, there is not a Windows machine in my entire apartment. Even my partner and my stepson use Linux. So we are a Linux, and I've got a Mac Pro for video editing, but it's a Linux household, if you want to put it that way. And this last year, Linus Tech Tips has been doing a challenge. Now, I don't know if anyone has seen the finale of this particular video. I'm going to post links again in the description below, but also in the chat. It's a really good... I thought the series itself was really good because it did raise a lot of questions about some rough areas and edges that Linux needs to work on. So the finale was really interesting because essentially the finale stated that gaming was not ready on Linux yet. And despite the fact that I game on Linux and do it really well, I haven't really had much in the way of problems. Despite the fact that I do game on Linux, I am actually in agreement with Linus on this, and Luke, because they both agreed to this, because there are a few areas that need to be worked on. My entire focus on Linux evangelism is user experience, and there's a few areas that are quite rough around the edge. Certainly for non-tech related people, it's really not as smooth as I or other channels would like to admit. And hopefully, actually I was going to say that hopefully that the Linus Tech Tips video would be an improvement and help raise some issues to the public that would then get fixed. But actually during the challenge, there was an issue with Pop! OS that actually was fixed whilst filming. So they actually did fix a bug, which was quite serious probably because of the video, not unless they knew about it before, but definitely the video brought that specific bug to light. But that has been fixed. I did do a one reaction video to this Linus Tech Tip challenge, not the finale. I'm not really a reactions video type of person, but it was the video was specific to do with having some trouble using some stuff in Linux, and knowing the Linux community. It was kind of like, okay, I probably should come in here and do my part to chime in so they don't dismember him or whatever. But basically it's a really interesting video about some issues, inconsistencies with Linux that Linus and Luke both experienced. And that video was just really a matter of seeing what was quite obvious and what was not obvious. So the Linus Tech Tips video challenge for Linux I thought was really good. I don't know if anyone else has watched it. If you haven't, I definitely recommend watching it. It's a really good series. Definitely is really interesting. And if you've got just a little bit of tech balls, you might try to do it. And you know, I had one of my students also try Manjaro out. He ran into a few issues and jumped right back to Windows directly. I don't hold it against him because sometimes when you're used to something, it's not so easy to switch over. However, I have had a couple of issues myself that I got over Windows. I've also had issues with that, and you have to get over it as well. So, but Linux, I found it easier. I just kind of want to note, since I've been daily driving Linux, I have enjoyed my operating system more than I have normally enjoyed operating system user experience wise. In my personal opinion, Mac OS is the better user experience. It works for me. Linux is really good to play with. Also, I do like using that a lot, even though sometimes a little bit of it's rough. Windows, I just never really enjoyed using it. It works most of the time, but it's not that fun to use, so I don't enjoy to use it. But obviously I still have to admit the fact that it's the bigger operating system and so on, but it's still a really interesting. Linus tried out Linux for like a month, and was positive about some things. Is 2022 going to be the year of the Linux desktop? No. My honest opinion is it won't be, and it probably won't be 23 or 24 or 25. It's not going to happen. There's too much fragmentation in the system. There's too much like camps inside of Linux that kind of battle each other. So I think that it's quite a long way off before we see some real adoption. The Steam Deck is probably going to be one of the biggest jumps when that comes out, so I'm really excited for that. But I don't think that even that will be enough to push any kind of real mass adoption on desktop. The only way I think to do it is to basically shame companies into trying to provide more support or the APIs necessary for the open source developers to provide support. So I have some videos on that on my channel. Just as a quick plug, you can follow me on YouTube and you can follow me on Twitter. I'm on those two mediums as well as Twitch, so you can check up on there. I post videos once a week on Sunday, and also this is going to be a regular stream here on Fridays at 8 p.m. Central European Time. So thank you for joining us so far. Now, the biggest, I want to say news, the biggest kind of event happening in technology right now is something that's quite close to me and close to a lot of people, and it is gaming. I play a lot of games, and one of the biggest things that's happening right now in games is NFTs. Now, this topic is going to rub both sides of the camp up in a different way. So just as a kind of disclaimer, that I'm into crypto and stuff like that, I'm also really into decentralization and open source technology and things like that. So definitely democratizing like everyday things. It's really healthy to put control into people. However, NFTs, technologically speaking, have some really good things it can offer. But, in my opinion, in games, in the system that we live in right now, with money, games and NFTs do not mix. Now, there's a lot of people who will hate that, don't care. The fact is that so many companies, Ubisoft, EA, and so on, they're getting on this kind of NFT bandwagon for games, but not really using NFTs properly. And I don't know if there's actually a way to really do NFTs properly in games, to be honest with you. Game development is quite complicated. I know this because I've worked in game development, and this idea that people talk about using NFTs to transfer stuff between games. Here's a few hard facts for people who like to use arguments such as, oh, well, if we have NFTs, then we're going to be able to transfer like our items between games. No. Just stop with that. It's not going to happen. It's too complicated, and it actually creates so much problems development-wise and financially for the companies involved. If one company makes a game, let's say they make it in Unreal Engine, and they put some time and effort into making even just skins, let's just say skins, for example, something really simple, and they spend all the time and effort making skins, and then another company has to come along and they want to also have these skins in there, then basically this other company must use as much of the same technology as possible, and then company A is essentially giving free content to company B to use this stuff, and they don't get anything out of this, and there's too many variables involved. For example, if the models that are being used, let's say it's just a skin for a gun, if a model for a gun in game A is slightly different, one triangle, one polygon more in game B, the skin is no guarantee that it will work. And most of the NFT implementation so far it's driven from financial benefit and the financial incentive from the company's side. So it's really just cash grabs at the moment by game developers and by the owners of those game studios who are not gamers to try to find a way to monetize something else in a game. And because these games are still live services, because they're tied to a specific game, let's say, it doesn't matter if you talk about it like in blockchain and NFT bros talk about, oh, well, the NFTs are on the blockchain. It's like, sure. And let's say you manage to integrate them into 4 games. And if those games go offline, the NFTs are useless. They're only useful in the games that they're designed for. They cannot work outside that, right? So there's no incentive for the game companies to use NFTs from someone else because there's no money in it for them. The second thing is that given how complicated game development is, this idea of statistics, like if you have a gun and the gun has a certain amount of damage it can deal and maybe a fire rate and stuff like that, that you're talking about essentially creating what would be a massive large API of weapons and guns and inventory items with a very strict set of dimensions and polygon counts and triangle counts and animations that then other studios could use. Now that could work in a perfect world, and this library of APIs could be updated. That is technically possible. However, implementing that in the game costs time, which costs money, and the developers of those games won't get any money out of it. So it's completely de-incentivized from a corporate standpoint. And then you're going to move over to the fact that they could just make their own and then make money from that. So from what I've been reading on Twitter, on YouTube, and everywhere else, is that there are only certain types of people who want NFTs in games. And those people are not gamers. Those people are crypto NFT bros who want a quick way to make money in games. I'm on the side of gamers. I don't want NFTs in games. I don't want tons of blockchain stuff in games unless it actually provides something beneficial. Some people like to talk about play to earn, for example. Play to earn games are terrible. I mean, because the entire design function is solely around the play to earn mechanic as opposed to play for fun. I don't know when that concept was lost, but at some point in the last few years, game developers got to a stage where they stopped designing games for fun and they started designing games for monetization or implementing NFTs or implementing stupid auction houses or as Angry Joe would say, for the color blue. I mean, just it's so crazy that people talk about like, gamers don't want like to be able to buy in-game content. They don't want that. They don't want that in their game, and they don't want NFTs. But what about play to earn? It's like, well, what about play for fun? I mean, that's what we want. That's kind of why we play games. Is because we want to have fun, and we don't want to play to earn. If the entire mechanic becomes focused around the earning mechanism, and a really, really good, solid argument against play to earn is the fact that there are so many games out there right now, so many that don't have play to earn mechanics in, and they've got some way of earning the in-game currency or to earn some items in the game and stuff like that. And there are bots and cheaters who actively exploit that. Could you imagine what it's going to be like if there's play to earn mechanics for actual money? Like what will happen with cheats and bots then? That's going to be absolutely insane. And there are some games that have come out that have been absolutely destroyed by cheaters and bots for for loads of games, and that is only going to get even worse if there's a play to earn mechanic. So it sounds good in theory, but I don't know if anyone here watches the channel Upper Echelon. Really good, a really good channel. I really do like a lot of the content that he makes. And he made a really great video I'm going to post into the Twitch chat, and I'm also going to put in the description in YouTube as well. And it actually goes through some really interesting numbers about NFTs and in-game purchasing and various stuff like that I definitely recommend everyone should watch, because the amount of trading that happens with NFTs, for example, is done by a very select few people, but it accounts for 80% of the entire purchases, for example, which means that it's being inflated by just a few people, which is really bad. And then you also have issues with the bots and stuff like that, and how quickly games can get overblown with bots and cheaters, which is also a problem. And at the same time, you also have issues with companies not really understanding technology and then only implementing parts of it. So this little rant about NFTs is not against NFTs. It's against implementation of NFTs in games where it doesn't add any value, except it only adds monetary value for the people who invest in NFTs, which is stupid because it essentially ruins those games. In-game purchasing has destroyed so many games. EA, of course, is famous for this, but there is loads of companies that do this and ruin perfectly good games with this. And basically, if a company doesn't understand it, they just think, oh well, this is a good way to monetize. Now these companies have fiduciary responsibilities to their shareholders to find ways to make money all the time. So, but there seems to be a lack of responsibility to consumers and customers, because who buy the stuff. But as long as they make enough money, I guess, within a short period of time, then who cares, right? That's basically their attitude. So I'm not a fan of NFTs in games. I'm basically not a fan of blockchain in games either, because I have yet to see a viable benefit to implementing it yet. And it's not that I don't understand the technology, it's just the fact that the companies don't. And if they don't, then it's not going to provide any benefit to us. If you know of a game or you know of a benefit that it can provide, then definitely write in the chat or in the YouTube comments, because I've looked for ages, I've watched tons of videos on this, and I've seen games with it. They all suck. So, and they just kind of go, you just see how many games have been ruined by that type of consumerism, and you just think, I just want to play games for fun. I don't want to play to earn, and I don't want in-game purchasing, and I don't want NFTs ruining my experience. And it's just a way for these companies to monetize. So I don't know what anyone else thinks about this. I'm really not a huge fan of this, obviously. I know some people in my circle of supporters and friends that are really into NFTs, and some really into games for NFTs. I'm not. I don't care. I'm really not interested in NFTs. So at the moment, because it's just such a huge scam at the moment outside of games, that the inside of games is even more of a scam. So there's nothing really valuable at the moment that it can really add to my experience in playing games. And like I said, I don't know how anyone else feels about this. I don't like it. I know loads of people who don't like it, and the majority of gamers certainly don't want it either. So like I said, I really would love an example. I would love to be proven wrong, but there's so many bigger YouTube channels and media people way bigger than I am, who have done way more research and spent a lot more time on this topic, who haven't found anything either. So unless I've got a random detective wizard following my channel or whatever, who manages to find something super awesome, then basically that rule probably still stands, that NFTs don't belong in games. In-game purchasing barely belongs in games, let alone NFTs and blockchain stuff. And like I said at the start of this segment, I'm into crypto. I'm quite into that. I do stuff with that as well. So NFTs are probably not going to touch, I guess. I haven't seen anything that I want. And I just want to play games for fun. So, like I said, I don't know if anyone else feels the same about that. But when you've seen in the last month, we've had Ubisoft, who failed miserably with NFTs. You've got EA, who are stepping in this area. Sega have said they're stepping in this area. Square Enix have said they're stepping in this area. I do believe like Konami or something said they were stepping in this area. I'd have to check that. But the amount of people who are moving into this area, I think Activision also said they were. So the amount of companies that are moving in this area is just, it's so depressing. It's so depressing because some of these companies were run by really good people, gamers, and people who had visions for games, and now they're run by just corporate stooges who only care about money. And some of these companies make insane amounts of money, and then they still, well, how can we screw over people even more to make money? Let me just tell you something really bluntly live here now on this channel. If a game comes out and it has NFTs in it, and you buy the NFT, if that game service goes down, it means absolutely jack shit that you have that NFT. Because if the NFT is only usable in that game, and the design specifications are not known for that particular item, it doesn't matter whether you own it or not. If the service goes down that it was used for, you're basically holding something totally, utterly worthless. In the same way that if you buy an in-game content from any game, like EA Sports, like titles like NBA and all the other stuff, Madden, Angry Joe does some really good stuff on that. Madden, for example, when you buy like the in-game collector cards and stuff, when that game goes down, those cards are worthless. NFTs at the moment are exactly the same as that. And as far as I can tell, the only benefit to have them is bragging rights. There's no other benefit to it at all, which is exactly what most in-game purchasing tends to follow as well. Pretty much just bragging. Oh, look, I've got like the color blue on my gun. I've got this special hat that only I got. Cool, don't care. Just shut up and play. You know, that's like when I'm playing games, I just want to play. So, I don't think you're going to see much positive stuff from me regarding this topic. I don't support it. I won't buy anything game-wise that has it in. Not interested. But definitely if you haven't seen it, like I said, I will post a link in the description for the Upper Echelon Gamers channel. Did a really good video on there. If you notice, like with cryptocurrency and stocks, you know, like how certain groups of people will do activity to drive a stock forward, and it's only very few that do it. This is one of those things where very few people in the NFT market, very few, like less than 10% or something like that, of all of the people that engage on NFTs are responsible for like 80% or more of the buying and selling of the NFTs, which is a huge discrepancy that is such a massive red flag that you're going to watch many of these fail. And my issue is not so much that I don't really care. Like Ubisoft had some NFTs and games and it failed, right? They're still going to keep trying, obviously. But the fact is that they end up spending money on that rather than the actual game, like graphics or gameplay. So we end up spending money on crap we don't want rather than, you know, actually making the game better or putting paywalls up. Remember, this is something that people have now gotten used to, this idea that in-game purchasing and paywalls. You can spend $50 for a game, $60 for a game, $100, $120 in some cases. And the game doesn't work when it comes out, right? And then you've got this live service model, which could work, but it doesn't because of greed. And then the live service model is that you have a game that doesn't work on release, which is annoying. And then you wait for them to finish it, or in some cases release content they've already finished later for like an extra $10 or $15 because they can. And slowly this becomes the normal thing. And I don't want to see more that in games. I want to see more games. I mean, that's as simple as I can put it. So the more we allow NFTs in games and blockchain coming in this way, the more it's going to happen, and everyone needs to say, no, we don't want this. Let's just go away. Leave games alone, and we'll be happy. So I don't know how everyone else feels about this. I know, like say, from my circles that basically everyone agrees with that position because they don't want that. Like I said, I'll be interested in hearing your thoughts below in the chat as well as in the YouTube comments. I definitely am very keen to engage with the community on that. As I said earlier in the stream, you can follow me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel where I post tech content. You can go there, and you also can follow me on Twitter. The tags are just above me here. You can check there. I post content every Sunday, tech-related content, as well as stream this show every Friday starting today. This is the first of the shows that I'm doing, and covering certain topics of the last week. In this case, the last 2 weeks, since there was the LastPass thing, which was more than a week ago. If anyone also has any questions, tech support questions, so if you have any problems with technology at all, servers, networking, home labs, you can ask me here, and I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. I kind of want to turn this live show, if I can, into a kind of live support chat where me and the community can help each other out with different issues, as well as discuss some interesting or important events in the technology area, like we have today. That's kind of the aim. Also, since we've gone through those points, if anyone's been following the developments of Windows, if anyone's just joined the stream or watching the video now at this point, you'll know that I am using Linux full-time. I've been daily driving Linux for about 3 months now. I've used Linux before a lot, especially in the server area, but I do get asked quite often, like, what was the final straw? Like, I have Mac OS for my video editing machine. I have Linux on all my servers. I use Linux on desktop as well, but I have my Windows machine. I play games on it. Why did I uninstall Windows? What is the deal there? Why did I eventually pull the plug on that? And the answer to that is 2 things. Firstly, on Windows, with the constant forced updates, I kept getting an update that essentially broke all of my audio drivers on my computer. And I tried so many things to fix it. I could not fix it. I tried so many different articles. I tried resetting so much stuff. I even reinstalled Windows. I tried so many stuff. I even tried different audio card setups. Nothing. Windows refused to save certain settings about my audio, meaning that every time I turn on my computer, I had to reset up my microphone, reset up my speakers, reset up any sounds that I had set up specifically every time, which meant that every time I stream, turn on my computer, go into Windows, change all the settings, and then do exactly the same thing again every time. If there was a forced update, then I'd have to force the update, then come back on and do the same thing again. And that just was the final straw for me. And then people ask me, well, why don't I wait till Windows 11? Honestly, since Windows 8 or so, The constant updates to Windows have been more and more down the line of telemetry and tracking, and the lack of privacy. It's like, what the hell is this? Like, I do not like this direction. This is terrible user experience. And Windows has never been the greatest user experience for me, but when they start adding in like adverts for OneDrive in the start menu, or popping up that you should use Edge every time you open up something else in the bar at the bottom, in the taskbar, it's like, honestly, what the fuck is that? That is not good user experience. That is ramming products down people's throats to use them, even if they've decided not to. Right? If you install a browser on Windows, the first thing you do is you open up Edge, and you search for Chrome or Brave or whatever. And every step of the way, you get to Windows going, are you sure you want to do this? You could use Edge. It's awesome. No. It's like, no, I've decided I want to use Chrome or something. Leave me alone. And then you download it and you install it, and then you want to change the default browser, and it reminds you again, do you want to use this? You should use this. And it's like, come on, man. Like, leave me alone. If someone's smart enough to go onto Google and download Chrome, they're smart enough to know what they're doing with regards to using a browser. They don't need to be harassed to use Edge. And it's the same with OneDrive and 365 and stuff like that. It's not just like in a notification at the bottom, it's in the start bar. I mean, that's a really terrible user experience. So that was my reason to go, do you know what? On top of all the other bad news regarding Windows 11 with TPM chip requirements and system requirements and so on, it was like, no, I'm done now. I'm done. I don't enjoy using my computer anymore with it on. So I'm just going to move to something else full time. Now, I have my Mac OS machine. As much as I love my Mac Pro, it's really amazing at video editing and stuff like that, even better than my newer PC. The fact is that the graphics driver support is not there. Linux, on the other hand, for me, for the last 3 months, has been stable as hell. Yes, I can see here, and Captain Nas, yes, it's very, very important, like the locking out. The fact is, if we install Linux, that's it, it's that version. Even Mac OS has done that. Like, you install Mac OS, it's Mac OS. You install Linux, Manjaro, it's Manjaro, that's it. Windows is, do you want Windows Home, Windows 10 Pro, Windows Education, Windows... It's just ridiculous, and they lock out features that you don't need to do it, So, honestly, my personal opinion is this. For Microsoft to get their shit sorted, to do something good, they have to do essentially what Apple have done. If people are not aware, a lot of major revisions of macOS essentially go through entire recoding. It's not just like, oh yeah, we're going to take the operating system and add some new features. They actually code everything from scratch again. So they'll take like the macOS version of Windows Explorer, which is called Finder, right? And that hasn't changed in a long time. There's not really a need to change it. But in certain major revisions of the operating system, they just rewrite it from scratch. If they can save one line of code or a few characters of code, then it's an improvement. If they can find a little way to improve it for some other reason, then they can do it. And I can't remember the exact numbers, but one of the biggest releases was when it went from Leopard, which was I think macOS 10 or 11 something, to Snow Leopard, and it like reduced the file size by over half of for the installation. It made it really fast and really snappy, but it didn't omit anything. It still had everything in it. It just was recoded more efficiently with all the same features plus some more. Microsoft need to do this. There's so much old stuff in Microsoft in Windows that it's like a hodgepodge patchwork of loads of random bits, and a lot of the systems now are quite antiquated, and then they just kind of bolt on new things. So I think if they want to make the system really decent, they're going to need to do this. My colleague at work has Windows on his work machine. He's run into lots of problems with it. And today, he had the weirdest issue, which was the top 10% of the bar of his entire one screen was black. It wasn't a graphics card problem. It's just, and if you drag a window that wasn't maximized, it would still load. But if you maximized the window on that screen, top 10% of the screen was black. For no reason. It was, and not on every program, just on a few. And every time you minimized it and maximized it, it didn't always do it. It's like, what? Like, what is that? So we really, it's just, even he started to get really annoyed. And it's like, God, this is just like, it's getting worse. It's like becoming geriatric. It's just kind of slowly falling apart. And Captain Knas in the chat earlier said about the telemetry. Like I said, I mentioned the telemetry. I really don't want that crap in my system. I don't believe in the concept of privacy, generally speaking, in today's world. I think that the amount of privacy that people expect is too high. However, there is still areas where we can, and we don't want more privacy being opened or abused. And the constant telemetry is still there. And also, I don't know if anyone has done installs of Windows in the past, but like Windows 10 and so on, where you install Windows, and if you don't get like a good image of it, you get like Candy Crush and crap like that. It's like, I don't want... Why is Candy Crush and stuff included in like Windows 10 Pro? It's for business and enterprise, and it's got Candy Crush and stuff like that there. I mean... It's just that someone decided that somewhere, and that person, I can tell you now, without meeting them, has never 1 second or 1 iota of time given to user experience at all. Just purely it's business, no user experience. And that increased telemetry for me is essentially the lacking of user experience. Yeah, I haven't actually done it myself, Captain, with the Wireshark and checking through Pi-hole specifically for Windows. My Pi-hole was set up after removing Windows, so I haven't had the pleasure of watching how much Windows is sending out. But I have seen other people do the Wireshark with Microsoft. And if you run Wireshark through macOS or through Linux and then through Windows, the difference is quite staggering. I know Apple get a lot of hate for stuff for really weird reasons, to be honest, but the amount of telemetry in there compared to Windows is staggeringly different. It's really insane. And in Linux, of course, it's really low. So I definitely, if you haven't done it yourself, to anyone, and if you missed a message in the chat from Captain, Wireshark is a good way to just load it on your computer, check how much network traffic is coming and where it's going. It's insane how much goes in and out of your computer without you really knowing. So if you want privacy, I think that you essentially are only forced into using Linux. Even as a fan of macOS myself, I don't know that privacy. I mean, you can get into the terminal, and it's a Unix-based system, so there is quite a lot, if you know how to, under the hood you could do. But yeah, I find like when I've installed, I don't know how anyone else feels about this, but I've installed macOS, Windows, and Linux hundreds of times. And here's the difference. When I install macOS, once it's installed, the first thing I start doing is I can load up a browser, download software, start using software. When I had my very first one, I downloaded, I had a MacBook, which I still have, from 2004. It still works. So I loaded up, and within an hour of having my first Mac, I was in iMovie, making a little movie just to play with it. It was like, awesome, right? When I load up Linux, my Manjaro machine, once it was installed, I didn't install any drivers, I didn't install any software. I loaded up Steam because it was included, and downloaded Elder Scrolls Online, and then I was playing it within an hour. The collection I've got is quite fast, so it downloaded pretty quick. And it worked. I just enabled Proton on it, that was it. No more. When I install Windows, first thing I do is uninstall some of the stuff it comes with because I don't want it. And then I have to replace some of the stuff that's in it that I don't want either, like Edge or whatever like that, which I still actually you can't get rid of completely without going through the command and CMD and and every time you update the system, it's going to just re-put it on anyway. So it's kind of like, at what point is the computer yours? You know, I missed the time when we used to own our computers, and we had control over our hardware. So, and the control over which software we want to use without being hounded by the system. So, I think the last good version of Windows was probably 7. After that, it went downhill pretty fast. So, I hope that this stream has been interesting, and I hope that people, if they've had any questions to ask, that's okay. I definitely want to help out people more. And definitely the input from anyone on Twitch and also on YouTube, comments about what you would like to see. If there's a topic you think is interesting, head over to Twitter above my head and check it out. And tweet me what you think might be interesting for me to cover, and I will make a note of it. If you think there's an idea for a video, then definitely I will do that. I know that some people in the chat did ask about the password system that I use rather than a password manager. So I definitely will plan a video on that. That should be pretty straightforward video to do. And given security these days, definitely is probably quite relevant. And if you want to see some changes to this format, I don't know how this format will be. This is the first time that I'm doing this type of stream. It's quite free form without any real structure, just go through certain things and chat to the community and engage with you guys on stuff. I kind of like that. That's kind of what I do. So I really like to engage with my community on this. Last year, by the way, to everyone who was supporting my channel last year, you guys did awesome. My channel grew quite a lot. I was very happy with the growth, despite the amount of videos I managed to put out, and really that really pushed me to do videos, and the feedback I got on quality and content and so on was really, really important to help me find my way. So thank you for supporting me on Twitch, on YouTube, on Twitter. I have a page on Instagram. I don't use it that much. I'm pretty much focusing my social media attention just to Twitter, just to YouTube, and just to Twitch. I don't know if the next stream will be on Twitch and YouTube, or whether it will just be on Twitch. I'm still working through multi-streaming on Linux. It's not as... OBS is missing that on Linux for a simple way to do that. Perhaps another video to make. So I hope it's been enjoyable. Please do check me out on Twitter and on YouTube and check out some videos there. And if you have missed any of the links I posted earlier in the chat, then I will post them on the description in the YouTube video so that you can check out there. Because the Linux daily driver challenge from Linus was awesome, really useful. The Upper Echelon Gamers video about NFTs in games, really important, as well as the links to the DRM Canon issue for printers, and the LastPass Hack was a cherry on the top of a company that honestly probably has to die at this point, in my honest opinion. So at least a company that cannot be trusted to deal with security, since they can't even deal with their own. So I hope everyone had a good holiday. I hope everyone has a good weekend. I will see you next week on Friday, or in between when I stream. I do stream when I play games. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I play games for fun. So I don't have a schedule for when I play games. When I play, I stream, because that's what I like to do in my free time. So if you do want to continue the conversation there, you can head over there. That's fine with me, and we can chat there. And if you need any help, you can join the Discord. It is in the channel on Twitch below. You can click that link and it'll take you to Discord, and I will be able to chat to you there as well. I pretty much live on Discord. So Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next week or in between if you decide to watch me playing some games, and my video will come out on Sunday.